The recent upsurge in violence is troubling to many New Yorkers. Joining me to discuss this is retired Police Captain Corey Pegues, who was Deputy Inspector of the 67th Precinct and is now an author. And you hear later in this program what else he is. Also in this program, Andrew Clarke, the Director of Braata, will be my guest to talk about that organization that supports artists all over New York. But let's begin with Corey Pegues. Welcome to Brooklyn 45, Corey.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you. There is this newspaper that has a headline, Rising Crime in New York. What is causing this?
Well, let's just be clear. I'm a product. I was a teenager in the 80s when I was a young kid selling drugs and committing crimes. Crime was really out of control. I changed my life, became a executive in the biggest police department, and was part of the downtrend in crime during the 90s and 2000s. Right now, crime is up a little bit, but I don't think we're ever going back to the 80s or the 90s. But what I think is, and I can tell you this, just so like the numbers don't lie, Sam. So you just think about this. In 92, we had 2,500 homicides. Last year, we had 460. We're going to go back to that. I promise you we're not going back to 2,500, but, one death is one too many. You understand? 3 years ago, we was at like 323. So there has been an uptick in the last 2 to 3 years in homicides and other major crimes of robberies and stuff. But what I think happened was after the George Floyd murder, the United States just went crazy with defunded police, restructured police, all of these things, right? It was all hell breaking loose on police. Let's just restructure and fix it, which was fine. I'm for that. I was a cop for 21 years, and there is a lot of meat that could be shaved off the bone in policing. I don't like defund. I more like restructure. But why does the NYPD got a $2 billion budget? I don't know. Like, we shouldn't have it. It's just too much. Every police municipality in the country is the biggest budget on the city. So it's straining the city. And you can't say that crime is going down, 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 but the budget is going up, up, up. But the legislators in New York State in particular, they went way too far on bail reform. They went way too far. I was for reform. Like, I think you would be for this. Like, we had the big case in the news, Khalif Browder, that was in jail for something just minimal. And he couldn't make $1,000 bail. A poor kid in the Bronx, 17 years old, couldn't make $1,000 bail for a petty law, whatever the crime was. It was a violation or misdemeanor. And he stood in jail for 2 years, ended up hanging himself after being released. All right. So like those petty crimes, why is somebody in jail for jumping a turnstile? It absolutely makes no sense, right? Why is somebody in jail because they had an open container of beer and they couldn't pay the fine, and then you put a warrant out, like those things. But we got people getting released doing robbery second degree. That's kind of ludicrous. And for the audience, second degree is a robbery with a weapon. It's kind of ludicrous that these people. So, what I'm finding out is from cops, before they could finish the paperwork for like a robbery second degree, the person is being let loose by the judge. And the judge, we can't even blame the judge because they have to go by the legislative law. So these laws, they went too far. And I think that our councils, the speaker upstate from the Bronx, he needs to pull the team together and say, we need to tweak this. I think it can happen now. I think it's going to happen. But I think they just went way too far. But I want all New York City residents to understand, we're not going back to the 90s and 80s. I promise you that. And it's not just because of the police, because you'll be fooling yourself if you think police brought crime down by themselves. It wasn't just the police. We wanted more for our kids. We wanted more for ourselves. We're more educated than we was in the 70s, 80s, so it's not going back, but the police got to do something.
Is this current rush of violence the worst that you have experienced?
No. Remember, I'm a product from the 80s or the 90s. When you're talking about 2,500 homicides, you're talking about 3 to 4 homicides a day. When you talk about last year, 463 homicides, that's probably like 1.2 people dying a day. It's a lot. It's down. The crime is not like it used to be. But we have been so used to the NYPD downtrend in crime for the last 20 years. It's been a decrease. So when you have just like a 1 or 2 or 3% increase, everybody's alarmed saying, oh, the place it's a zoo again. No, it's not a zoo again. We do have squeegee men back out there. I see some graffiti. You know, last time I was on the show, we talked about the graffiti on the walls, you know, quality of life issues. That's the reason we brought crime down. And they kind of shied away from that. But I have confidence in the city that, you know, the police, they'll fix it.
People are reading newspapers, people are listening to radio and television, they're watching television. And what they are seeing on the media is crime stories, number one, number two. What they're seeing is that crime is bad. What would be your message to these people who are seeing all of this on television and hearing all of this on radio, reading all this in the newspapers?
So what I would say is, first, please don't believe everything you read in the media. I mean, in 2014, New York Post put me on the front cover and called me a thug cop, and I was far from that. So we can't believe everything in the media. You have to understand this too, Sam. Just think about this. The day that Eric Garner got murdered by the cops, right? There were probably 1 million police contacts in America that day. So you gotta understand, like the media, they pick and choose. They will pick and choose which cases that they want to put in the media. So what the citizens need to do is like crunch hard numbers. We got to crunch hard numbers. Like you have to be involved. Like I live in a town in Long Island, a small town. There's only 60 cops on the police force where I live. I know the mayor. I know the police commissioner. I know the sanitation director. I'm involved in my community. So I know what the numbers are here where I'm living. If you're not part of the solution, you're going to be part of the problem. So you need to be well informed on what's going on in your community. Because if, let's say you're in 6-7 precinct and you're looking at the numbers in the 6-7 precinct, they play with the numbers like what's the 2%, 20% increase. What is the increase? Is that last year we had 5 robberies and now we have 6, because 6 means it's 20% increase. But you see 20%, you're like, oh, how is breaking loose is 20% up, but it was only 1 more robbery. So you have to kind of look at the numbers and know, but the police got to be transparent, and they actually put the numbers out.
Your new mayor, is saying that he's concerned about the crime as well, and it's going to stop. What do you think?
The new mayor, very good friend of mine, very good friend. As a matter of fact, me and him stood in my house for 12 hours a day and studied for the captain's test together. And we got promoted out of 5 people that was in our study group. I think his heart is in the right place. I think that him saying he wants to bring plain clothes back, anti-crime, I think it's a recipe for disaster in our communities. When you say anti-crime in Black and brown communities, we think stop, question, and frisk. We think that you're going to be violating people's rights. And what I do know, and I don't know if the man knows this, when they ended anti-crimes, for your audience, they probably didn't even know this. What they did, they disbanded anti-crime from plain clothes. They put them in uniform. And last year, they took over 4,000 guns off the streets. We haven't had 4,000 guns off the streets since the 90s. So why bring anti-crime back and playing the best for me? I've been doing this for a long time. I have a recurring role on Court TV every week as an analyst. The best position for a police officer to be is in his uniform, because he or she is easily identifiable. And the most important part of that is when they have their uniform, their name, their shield, they're going to act a lot different when they have on jeans, ripped up jeans, and a T-shirt. In our community, they already have body cameras. They're taking the guns off the streets. I know he keeps saying he's concerned with the guns and the gangs, but the NYPD has a gang division. So what are they doing? They have a whole gang division. I ran the most violent gangs precinct in the city, the 6-7 and PSA 2 as a commander. They're there. The guns are coming off the street, but Eric Adams can't do anything with crime. I don't care if he put 15,000 cops in plain clothes. If they don't change the legislative laws, Sam, it's not going to work. Because you can lock everybody up, but they're going to come out the next day and they're going to rob somebody else. Or they're going to run into the stores and Macy's and take all this stuff and then they're gonna go to J.C. Penney's, then they're gonna go to Nordstrom's. I just think, Eric, and he's a friend of mine, I think his argument for plain clothes should be his argument to the legislators upstate. We need to tweak bail reform. That's where the meat is. It's not plain clothes. Plain clothes, they're in uniform getting guns. Why would you put them in plain clothes when they're already getting the guns? It's the most guns they had since the 90s.
So where are these criminals and where are these people who I guess will become criminals, where they taking all of these actions and think that they will get away with it when almost every home now got a security camera. Whenever a crime is committed, you see the picture in the newspaper and you see the picture on television. Why are they continuing to do this?
Well, you got to understand, criminals not the sharpest tool in the box. And they also look at media and read newspapers like you and I. So when they're saying that, the Manhattan District Attorney is basically saying, I'm not locking nobody up unless they kill somebody. So you could rob people, you could kidnap people, you could do all of these things and you're not going to jail. He even went so far as to say that you could rob a place with a gun, but if you didn't use the gun, we're dropping it to a misdemeanor. So criminals read that too. You have to understand. So they say, hey, so it's open season. Why should I rob somebody in Staten Island, which is really tough on crime, or Queens, which is a little tough on crime? And I could go to Manhattan and get away with it. So the criminals, they're not the sharpest tools in the box, but they also read and they look at the crime trends and see what's going on.
So how would you give peace of mind to people living in their homes and are afraid to walk the streets? To the owners of bodegas, we've been hearing of so many bodega attacks. What do you say to these people where they can have a good night's rest?
Well, what I would say to the business owners is they have to fortify, their business. We have to adapt and overcome with the times. Right now, people are committing robberies and stuff. So you got to have a buzzer. You have to have a buzzer on your door. Don't have too much money in there. And most of all, you give up all the property, everything. Give them the money. Live to see another day. They're fortified with cameras. They got the security cameras. We'll get them. Don't fight. Don't put up a fight. Poor girl in Harlem, 19 years old, working at McDonald's, got murdered last week. I don't know if she put up a fight, but she was murdered. And for the life of me, I can't believe why somebody would just shoot a 19-year-old. So, you just got to fortify your business more and make sure that you're taking detailed descriptions of who's coming in. But the fortification is the main thing. And that goes with I just had the cops knock at my door a couple of weeks ago because something happened on my block. But, I have a Ring camera. So everybody have rings. So they're knocking on your door saying, let me view your video camera. Let me view your ring. For the life of me, I don't know how these criminals are committing crime. And everybody got Ring cameras. Or everybody got this thing in my hand. Everybody's taping. But the criminals don't care. Because you got to understand, it's such a small segment of the community that's criminals. And we know who all of them are, the cops. It's not rocket science no more. Like when I was a cop in 1992, it's not hard to solve crimes. We know who the criminals are. So if they laser focus, pinpoint action toward the criminals, they can get the criminal element and bring crime down.
Are you writing a lot of this in your books? I know you're an author.
Yes, I'm an author, successful author of a book called Once a Cop, The Street, the Law, Two Worlds, One Man. And now I'm starring in a feature documentary that's debuting on Friday at the Quad Theater, 34th East 13th Street, and it's running to next Thursday. It's called A Cops and Robbers Story. And I just wrote my second book. It's a children's story called If I Was a Superhero.
What are you doing in this movie? You said you are the lead actor?
Yeah, the movie is about me. It's about my book. It's about my book, Once a Cop. It's a detailed memoir about my life from being a young misguided kid to becoming one of the top executives in the NYPD.
Well, we must see that. Once I've seen it, and once our director and our producers have seen it, we're going to let you know what we think about it, but we are sure it's going to be.
Yes, and the people could get it. I could get it on Amazon or Apple TV, Vudu, Verizon, Spectrum. It's all over. It's everywhere.
The pandemic. People are afraid to leave their homes. How is this? How are the criminals using the the pandemic to their advantage, and what should the community do to protect themselves?
Well, the pandemic was the best thing for the criminals because everybody's wearing masks. So everybody's masked up. So what I tell my friends and family that's afraid, I don't want to ride on the New York City subway myself. I'm definitely afraid to ride on the New York City subway because crime is going underground. But all you could do is just be safe and, and just try as much as you can if something happens to you to get a detailed description, not just a male black 5'8", blue jeans, black jacket. If those blue jeans had a rip in it, if he had or she had on orange shoes, we need a little more. Give the cops the appropriate information, something different. He had on a yellow do-rag because the description of a male black in the community robbing somebody is probably 13 to 30, 5'8", blue jeans and a hoodie. So we get those descriptions all the time. And in white areas, it's, different. And Asians, it's all different. We wear the same stuff. It's just what fashion is. But you have to get something a little more detailed to give to the police. But I'm confident that we'll turn the tide.
Okay, what can the communities do to help the kids do something positive rather than join gangs?
Yes, so what the community could do is come behind the kids, try to rally the kids, give them skill sets. We need skill sets. I think the new chancellor, David Banks, he needs to bring back some arts programs. I remember being in wood shop, engineering. I was in engineering in high school, at Newtown High School in Queens. We got to bring these things back. You got to keep kids busy. Open up the schools. And the mayor was talking about that. Open up the schools to 8, 9 o'clock at night. Give them the skill sets.
Well, thank you very much, Corey Pegues. We're inviting everyone to watch your movie. Say it again, it's about you.
Cops and Robbers story.
Okay.
Quad movie theaters in Manhattan, 34th East 13th Street for the next week to next Thursday. It'll be out Friday, 1:30, first showing.
Okay, I'll be looking out for it.
Thank you.
And how do we get your book?
Amazon. You can get my book off Amazon or Barnes & Noble's, Target, anywhere they're selling books. It's called Once a Cop, The Street, the Law, Two Worlds, One Man. Thank you.
Thank you for being on Brooklyn 45.
Thank you. Have a nice evening.
Thank you, Corey Pegues. Braata, if you've never heard about them before, you're now about to. Andrew Clarke, welcome to Brooklyn 45.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me, Mr. Taitt. How you doing?
Okay. Yeah, well, it's good to see you, you and your long locks.
Yes.
I have lost the ability to grow anything like that.
I see that. I see that, sir. I'm fearing that. I think my hairdresser is saying I'm teetering on heading that way, that direction as well. So I'm enjoying this while it lasts.
You artists like to have your long locks, right?
Yeah, man.
I got your electronic brochure, and in your brochure it says you want to hold up the light to 2022. How do you plan to do this?
Ah, gosh, that's quite the task we've taken on, because I think if there's a word to describe 2022, it's unpredictable. We don't really know what's ahead. 2020 was the year that happened, but almost never happened. In a lot of our minds, because we were locked away in quarantine, and 2021 felt like the year that there was so much hope. There was the arrival of the vaccine. New York was reopening. For artists who had not been performing for about a year and a half, theater was back on again. And then the end of 2021, we saw us back in like this spike with COVID. So really 2022 is a year of uncertainty for a lot of us. So we're holding up the light in hopes that good things are on the horizon, so to speak.
You also spoke about shifts and changes in the creative landscape. What are these shifts that people may not even be aware of?
Quite a number of things. 2020 felt like a year of reckoning. So while the world was coming to terms, the world and specifically America was coming to terms with racial inequality and addressing that in a very open forum. In theater as well, we saw a reckoning of sort, because a lot of, without even recognizing it, so many of us as black and brown artists were oftentimes on the periphery of productions. You know, we're not featured. The roles on Broadway for black and brown people, people of color, even immigrants, are few and far between. And so the industry as a whole started to look introspectively at itself and really assess and try efforts are being made to bring about some amount of racial equality, certainly from a artistic standpoint, both on stage and off stage and behind the scenes. So that's been quite encouraging.
What are some of the artistic programming initiatives that we should look forward to in 2022 from your organization?
So Braata Productions, we're hoping in April 2022, we'll debut God's Way, a theatrical production written by Delia Harris. It's a four-hander, an inspirational play, and that should run for a 12-show run in Queens and in two venues in Queens. And then May will bring our 5K walk run, which we had last year for the first time, and that was quite successful. That's going to be about the early part of May. Toward the end of May, we'll head to Long Island City, and we'll be bringing Caribites, which is it's a culinary music festival celebrating contemporary Caribbean culture. And then in June, our Braata Folk Singers, it's a folk singing ensemble celebrating Caribbean folk traditions in song and music, dance, and drama. Had been on a hiatus for some years, and we re-emerged. There was a rebirth of sort in 2021, and so we'll be returning for a weekend-long concert season the first weekend in June.
Two things. One, you're not bringing any of this to Brooklyn.
Absolutely, no, man. Yeah, definitely. As a matter of fact, the second weekend in December, we had Christmas Grand Market, which is our Caribbean Christmas celebration, you know, showcasing Christmas traditions from the different islands. And we had that at the Holy Family Church Auditorium in Canarsie in Brooklyn. So we had a double build weekend. We were in Brooklyn on Saturday and Queens on Sunday. And as part of that bill, we had a fantastic Bajan poet, Samantha, who was really, really awesome. She was a part of that bill. So yes, these productions will be coming to Brooklyn for sure.
We'd love to have Samantha on the program.
Yes.
Name begins with Sam, as in Samantha. And as I said to you, there were two things. The other thing is, you never invited me to be part of your folk traditions. You know, I used to be the director of the leading folk performing group in Barbados.
Listen, Sam, don't tempt me with those things, you know. Once you nominate yourself and let me know that you have any sort of attraction to folk culture, I am immediately going to draw you onto the team. So know that after this interview, I'll be calling you personally, sir, to invite you to our rehearsals, because we've been trying to build out a leadership team that is multicultural, that represents the length and breadth of the Caribbean. So right now, most of our performing, our artistic team is Jamaican. So we welcome your involvement, sir.
Okay. Your mission, empowering artists to share Caribbean culture.
Yes.
Are you achieving your mission? And how are you going to be? And we only have a minute left, so let's talk about your mission.
I think we are. Braata we pride ourselves in creating a space for Caribbean and Caribbean artists to be their best, their most authentic self. And not many spaces like that exist in mainstream American theater, and certainly not at a professional level. So it's always been our mission to bring high quality production so that artists can continue to hone and showcase their talents.
So people can contact you, and it doesn't matter where they live in New York.
No, man, we've traveled as far as Atlanta. we've brought our message as far as Atlanta and Canada. So we are available for performances and tours. Our website is braataproductions.org. That's BRAATA Productions with an S.org.
Okay, Andrew Clarke, who is the director of Braata Productions. It's wonderful having you here on Brooklyn 45, and I hope 2022 will be a fantastic year for you at Braata.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Andrew Clarke. And to you, our viewers, thank you for watching this program. We invite you to partner with Brooklyn 45. You can do this in several ways. You can suggest topics or issues you want us to provide information about. Go to our website, www.brooklyn45.com, or email us at brooklyn45tv@gmail.com. Brooklyn 45 is a 501c3 not-for-profit community television program, and whatever amount you contribute to us is tax-free. You claim it on this year's taxes. When you support us, you and our viewers benefit from the information that we provide. So please do, and tell your friends on social media about us. On behalf of our Brooklyn 45 team, I'm Sam Taitt.
Brooklyn 45 is a 501c3 not-for-profit, and we welcome your support. Check out our website, brooklyn45.com, and feel free to donate or share it with your friends and family. Have any comments or questions? Send them to our Facebook, facebook.com/Brooklyn45TV. If you have any questions or topics you think we should cover next, shoot me an email over at brooklyn45tv@gmail.com. Thank you again for watching.